Just that. Are you here to make a fool of yourself? Vernon's voice cut across the counter sharp enough to slice the air. The man he mocked wore a faded coat shoe scuffed to the bone, posture bent as if the world had pressed him down too long. He had asked for nothing more than a small serving of fries. That was enough. Vernon's raised brow, his curled lips spread humiliation like wildfire. Forks froze midway. Conversations died. Even the Friars' hiss seemed to retreat. Phones lifted lenses hunting the weakness of a stranger. The request, 2 coins, a crumpled bill, became an indictment. A man reduced to ridicule by a petty tyrant a crowd made complicit. Through silence, the heat of shame radiated outward, searing the room, leaving everyone suspended between curiosity and discomfort. The stage was set, a kingdom weighed against a handful of potatoes. Once Jackson's world was a rusted food truck, rattling down crack streets. His hands bore the red burns of hot oil blisters splitting open as he flipped battered pans that had already lived a lifetime before him. The steel walls sweated grease, and the nights smelled of exhaustion and hunger. A single dented skillet was all he owned, and yet from it came his survival. He remembered scraping coins from counters, smiling at customers who measured every cent, knowing he was one of them. He remembered the sting of scorn, the way a stranger's contempt could weigh heavier than poverty itself. It carved itself into him sharper than any wound. Years layered over those memories, and the truck gave way to glass towers, boardrooms, and profits that spanned continents. The skillet was replaced with contracts, the burns, with polished cufflings. Yet he never forgot. The echo of disdain lingered, whispering a truth. A single look of contempt could burn down everything built by years of toil. That was why he walked into the fire. Again, disguised as the man he used to be. On his desk lay papers heavy enough to bend the oak. A $250 million expansion, 500 new stores, a horizon bright with promise. Investors waited. With sharpened pens, their eyes fixed on him as if fortune itself hung on his signature. 3 hours. That was the window. In that span, the board would gather like vultures circling a feast, hungry for the green light that would ignite an empire's next chapter. Their voices rang in his head. Growth scale dominance. They saw numbers. Jackson saw the weight of lives tied to those numbers beyond the polished figures and glittering forecasts. Doubt bled into him. A single stroke of ink could raise skylines or shatter unseen families ground down. Inside fluorescent kitchens. One nod and the machine would roar louder. One hesitation and the empire would pause. Time pressed on him like a closing fist. The deal glittered, the risk smoldered. 3 hours to choose between triumph and betrayal, between legacy and blindness. The reports had been glowing, too glowing like smiles painted on cracked glass. Yet beneath them, shadows surfaced. Complaints. Unsigned lines describing abuse that twisted his gut. Satisfaction scores falling, whispers of corners cut, dignity bartered for speed. He heard his father's voice rough as gravel from years of toil. You can deceive investors. You can deceive the press, but you cannot deceive the one eating your food. That voice haunted him more than forecasts or profits. Jackson knew the truth would never reveal itself across glossy presentations. It lived in the sting of an insult and the weight of a sigh behind a counter, in the silence of an employee too afraid to speak. He had to see it, taste it, endure it with his own skin. So the suit was shed, the Rolex left behind. In their place, a coat frayed at the cuffs, sneakers soft with wear, hair mussed with grease, a titan stripped into anonymity. To the world he now resembled a drifter with only coins in his palm. To himself he was what he had always been, a man willing to walk through humiliation to find the truth.